The left will never stop their agenda to take over America. You are their enemy, and they will not negotiate. Prepare yourselves. Welcome to the Blue Shark Show with your host, Mike Lang.
I want to thank the Hood County Republican Party for putting on a forum February 1st for the candidates of Hood County. Now, some candidates decided not to show up, and that's going to be on them. But I appreciate the candidates that did show up and decide to speak to the voters of Hood County. Now, this is a forum, and some people interchange that with debate. This isn't some presentation or public speaking engagement with a company or something else. So what we're going to do is we're going to have opposing ideas. If you're an incumbent, you're going to tell us why you think you're going to stay there and be a good incumbent. If you're a challenger, then you're going to say, this is why I want to run. But there's got to be a difference between the challenger and the incumbent and why the challenger decided to run against the incumbent. What has the incumbent done? What has the incumbent not done? Why did they decide to run? So when people say, hey, we have divisiveness up there, there's one candidate talking about the incumbent and vice versa, that's politics, folks. That is somebody believing in their stance, and then when you're the incumbent, you're not doing something that you should have been doing. So you have to bring that out. It's not a one-way street, kumbaya, we're all here together. Now, you don't want to attack the person personally, but you want to go after the issues. If there's an issue or two that's not being handled by the incumbent, it needs to be brought out. So the first race we're going to talk about is Jack Wilson, Commissioner of Precinct 3, and the challenger, Nate Criswell.
As far as being the platform, I support the bulk of it. Yes, there are a couple of things like was mentioned earlier that I'm not real sure about, but that's what we've got to deal with.
I have served as a precinct chair, a county chair of the Republican Party, and a delegate to the state convention. Look forward to sharing more here in the next few minutes. Thank you, guys.
As we look at the Commissioner Precinct 3 race between Jack Wilson and Nate Criswell, go look. Sometime, just go look on your own. I tell everybody all the time, do your own vetting process. Go look at the Hood County Republican video on Facebook. Look for yourself and see the whole thing. We don't have time to run every single candidate and everything they say. But there are a few topics here that they talk about that I want to speak on for both candidates. As Jack gets up there and does his introduction, fine introduction, he believes in a bulk of the Republican Party platform. I hear this a lot. I hear, hey, I don't believe in all of it. I believe in some of it. I want to know what you don't believe in. Is it, something simple that you don't believe in the platform, plank? Is it pro-life? Is it Second Amendment? What things do you not believe in the Republican Party platform? And if you don't be one of those people that fight against the platform against other Republicans. Change it later in the county conventions. So first of all, Jack believes in a bulk of, whatever that means, the Republican Party platform. And secondly, he's for your Second Amendment rights. Not constitutional carry, because true constitutional carry would be, you don't have to get a license from the state. You don't have to sign anything. You just own your guns. But one of the first interactions I had with Jack, I was a state representative, and he asked why we were making it difficult for all the firearms people getting rid of regulations. And as a state rep, I said, hey, look, this is the whole point of constitutional carry. Less regulations, the right to bear arms. So I do believe he believes in part of the Second Amendment, just not the whole thing. Now, as we go on to Nate Criswell during the opening, Nate said he was a precinct chair, he was the county chair, and he went to the conventions. So there's a Republican that believes in the Republican Party platform. I didn't hear him say he believed in the bulk of it, what he didn't believe in, if he believed in all of it, but you would think that Nate's a steadfast Republican. I do like the honesty of Jack Wilson in this opening part of the forum about believing in a bulk of the Republican Party platform. So let's move on.
The hands down most important role, I believe, is setting the budget and setting the tax rate. Everybody in this room, whether you own property or you rent property, pays property taxes. The place you live pays property taxes. The qualities one should look for in selecting a county commissioner would be finding somebody that doesn't vote to raise your property taxes. Somebody with a clear public policy record, such as mine, opposing things like giant school bonds and speaking out against the budgetary practices such as the gross underestimation of our sales tax revenue that's part of the budget cycle each and every year.
The job as the commissioner primarily is, as was stated, budget and taxes. But with growth, you have, those things are going to balance, at some point going to balance each other out. We have to look at the total big picture of what is being, brought into the county based on the appraisal values, but also be able to, reduce it, maintain the services for the citizens of the county as they come in.
The next question that was asked of the candidates was, what do you think is the most important role as a county commissioner? Nate Criswell went up and spoke, and he spoke first, and he stated that budget and taxes were, what the commissioners do. That's what they're there for. And that's correct. They set the budget, the county budget, and they set the tax rate for the citizens for that county budget. So that is one of the most important things that these commissioners do on the commissioner's court. And we all know through history, years and years and years, that Nate is very tax conscious on what the government does. He's beaten, several bonds that total over $500 million of money. He's done a lot of stuff in his history to show that he wants lower taxes. He spoke in commissioner court, and he's done certain things. So then you go to Jack Wilson, who is the county commissioner. And what is the most important role of the county commissioner that was asked? And he talked about taxes, but he also talked about growth. And we do have growth. We're growing very quick. And we do have new growth money that comes in that balances or should balance your budget out. But what happens is we have a county commissioner court, not everybody, that likes to spend money and spend money all the time. Jack has not lowered your taxes. You can go to the Hood County site, look under financial transparency, and look at the commissioner's votes on raising your taxes. Jack has raised your taxes at least 2 or 3 times. So he can't talk about the budget and not raising your taxes because he has raised your taxes. So let's move on to the next question.
Number one, as my signs say, I am very much pro-life. That's number one in my book. Second Amendment is number 2. As I've stated in my opening, strong supporter of both. That is what we have to work toward and maintain, and that as we go forward as a country, as a state, and as a county.
I love talking about the platform, and if you haven't read it, please go to texasgop.org/platform. It lists out what it means to be a Republican. In 2022, I was one of your delegates to the state convention. I was very proud to speak out against a minority report that wanted to soften the language on marriage. They wanted to soften the language, rather, on gay marriage. They wanted to stop calling it an abnormal lifestyle. And I was very proud to tell everybody there at that General Assembly, about 5,000 people, that we are not the party of political correctness. That would be one. In addition to that, school choice, abolishing abortion, and declaring an invasion at the southern border that has been part of our Republican Party of Texas platform since 2022. Thank you.
The next question the candidates had went to Jack Wilson first. and it was about the Republican Party platform and which planks they believed in the best, maybe their favorite. And Jack said pro-life was his favorite, along with the Second Amendment. Once again, with the Second Amendment, we already covered that. He said that we have to work towards that, both the U.S., the state, and the county. Now, the state already voted in constitutional carry, some form of it, which, is a state law. A county can't do a whole lot about that aspect of it, but that was one of his planks that he mentioned, those two planks. Now, when it went to Nate Criswell about the planks, he talked about going down to the state delegation in 2022, I believe, and he spoke on the gay marriage issue for marriage to be between a man and a woman. And he also talked about the platform planks about abolishing abortion, school choice, and calling it an invasion at the border. So as you see so far what's going on in the introduction, the first couple of questions, Nate Criswell is really going into depth with what he believes, some of the things he's done. Jack is hovering on pro-life and Second Amendment, pro-life, Second Amendment, and he doesn't, believe in he believes in the bulk of the platform. So it seems very difficult for Jack to talk about what he's done as a commissioner and what things have transpired over the last 3 years. And you look at Nate Criswell, and what you see is somebody that's able to speak about what they have done, what they believe, and it comes across pretty clear as you sit in the audience. Now let's go on to the next question.
Okay, so experience promoting conservative values in Hood County. This goes back many, many years. Not many, but 2019, when I was county chair of the Republican Party, and we had a record increase in appraisals, I decided to partner with a local property tax expert to put on a property appraisal protest seminar where we taught people how to take on the appraisal district and win by knowing the formulas that they used. Also authored and passed a resolution declaring these nonpartisan races to be partisan. Any entity that sets a tax rate or, as in the schools, has school curriculum is inherently partisan. And it didn't used to be that way, but that's what we're faced with now. In addition to that, I've helped defeat 2 school bonds totaling well over $500 million just in principal. That's not including interest. And also helped Sheriff Deeds 4 years ago with the Second Amendment sanctuary resolution. He was a client of mine at that time, not presently. He was a client of mine, and I said, hey, here's what they did in Presidio and Hudspeth counties. It had been about 6 months since they had done that. There had been no other counties to take part in that. We did it here. Over 100 other counties in the state followed suit. In that very next legislative session, we have a version of constitutional carry.
The next question went to Nate Criswell, and it was, how have you expressed your conservative values here in Hood County? What were you doing in office? What are basically the conservative things you've done, and why should the people vote for you? So Nate talked about what he did in 2019 as the county chair, and he put together a proposal about, our appraisals were so high that year that he got together with somebody and he put together a class that helped people go down and put their appraisals down and say, hey, look, I need to protest my appraisal. It's too high. So that's a very conservative thing. He also helped author, a Second Amendment resolution with Sheriff Deeds and help get that passed. And those are the kinds of things that the Commissioner's Court should already be doing. And in my opinion, I'm glad Roger did it, but he shouldn't have had to be prodded to do something like that. I mean, it should come up already on its own with the people that we have in office, but it didn't. So thanks to Nate for helping out. And he also talked about, defeating school bonds and things like that, and the interest of how much money he saved. So there's a lot of things that Nate has done over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years here in Hood County, and he spelled it all out within the time frame. And let's listen to Jack Wilson.
Several things. Number one that comes to mind is bringing a Texas Department of Public Safety driver's license law back into the city of Granbury. The fact that we were able to help work toward getting new electronic voting machines and being able to go from multiple software platforms to a single software platform, which we're still, going through, navigating through that, but we'll get there, because what was happening before was the sheriff's department had to input every data twice because of different, operations. So that was one of the bigger ones.
Now, the next question went to Jack Wilson, and because he's the incumbent, they asked what accomplishments was he proud of? What has he done while he's been in office? And Jack listed the first thing of, bringing the driver's license office back to Granbury. Well, Granbury used to have the driver's license office, and it was another commissioner's court, and it wasn't Jack, and it wasn't Ron, it wasn't those guys, but it was a different one that helped move, and there's a lot of reasons behind it, don't want to go into it, but it was a bad deal, but they moved to Toller, the driver's license bureau did, DPS. So what Jack did was he wanted to get the driver's license office back to Granbury, which, hey, I think that would be a good shot. But what happened was he got part of the driver's license office back. Now, what he got back was the computer aspect of it, the website. So everything you can do at home on your computer by going to Texas DPS on your driver's license and changing whatever you need to change on your driver's license. You can't do a physical test, and you can't do one, at the county anymore either. So you can do all that at home. So what they did is bring in a computer that you can go down and go to that office and do it if you don't want to do it at home. So the county hired 2 people, and let's say they pay them $40,000 a year. I don't know the exact salary. I'm sure it's between $35,000 and $45,000. And then you give them health benefits and whatnot. So you're looking at over $100,000, probably between $100,000 and $150,000. So the county's paying $10,000 a month for 2 employees, office space for something the state should be doing. This is not a county function. It's a state function. Now, if you would help to bring the state in, that would be different. But you're bringing the county in to do a state function, and then you turn around and complain about state unfunded mandates. So here we are, Hood County citizens just wasted over $100,000, $150,000 by bringing this in for what people can do at their home on their own computers. Now let's go to the second one, the voting machines. Voting machines are updated all the time. We go through voting machines. Yes, there was a big deal going on a few years ago. We have several videos on that. Go look at that. I think we need integrity in elections, and that kind of was a no-brainer. And then let's go to the third thing with Tyler Software. And if you look at the software program, you go to the court, all the offices had to go to Tyler. There were several courts where they're going back and forth. And he talks about the sheriff's office doing double entries. Well, Tyler and the sheriff's department, they were exempt. So they deal with NetD and Spillman, and they still have to double entry their things when it comes to Bond and NetD and Tyler. So when he talks about the 3 things that he's most proud of, it's kind of like, look at the fruits of your labor. You look at the other candidate, and you can see positive aspects of what that candidate has done, not even as an elected official for the county. Then you look at Jack Wilson's record and what he's most proud of, and you see, 2 goose eggs out of 3, and the third one, barely. So I really don't know how you could look at and say, hey, there's no difference between these two. There's a big difference between the 2 candidates. And I'm going off the fruit of the labor here, people, of what they've done, what they've accomplished, and how they've handled it. But don't sit here and tell me you brought the Driver's License Bureau back to Granbury when it's something that the citizen can do at home on their own computer. And now we're paying $100,000, $150,000 a year as taxpayers for that spot. And that's one thing, as commissioner, he should probably bring up something else as one of his top three. The next question went to Commissioner Wilson, and the question was about large-scale development, water sources, and what he plans on doing or what he has done as a commissioner in that regard. Let's listen.
You know, the development plats coming in, almost say daily, but real close to it seems like sometime. We have to maintain some control over the amount of the size of the developments. Water is your number one issue with those developments. We've got some developments that are trying to go in just barely at the 2-acre mark, and everyone has to have their own water well and their own septic system facility. That is a big concern when you have that much concentration. Basically, they're developing, as I've been telling some people, almost every square inch in the county you've got something going on it, and that is a big concern of how are we going to maintain and prevent overdeveloping where we tap out the resources that we have.
Now, Jack Wilson talks about, the size of developments. We have to keep them, smaller, or we have to watch out for the sizes. We have to look at the water, and yes, they do. There's state regulations, there are water boards, there's things like that the county has to follow these rules. And, the 2 acres, we get into water wells and we get into septic issues, and the county can do a lot through these water boards and look at the state, but there are restrictions. So he does a pretty good job at saying, hey, we have to make sure that these developments fit within these guidelines, which is part of the development portion of the county. And there's somebody over development that takes care of some of that. And that it gets brought to the commissioner's court through the department, the development department. So he kind of handled that one fairly good. But as a commissioner being there for 3 years, I would like to see him speak more about what was going on. He left his time short like he did on almost every single question. And as an incumbent, I would like to see that time like all the way up, and he should have a lot more to speak about. Now let's listen to the challenger, Nate Criswell.
Hood County, going back many years, has been overdeveloped without having the infrastructure in place. And I am going to come back to what I hope to accomplish. First thing is improve our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is severely lacking in many areas. Our roads, our schools, a lot of different areas of our infrastructure we brought in all this development without having the foresight to say, wait a minute, we're going to need bigger roads for this. We're going to need wastewater capacity for this. We're going to need these different side roads and feeder roads being taken care of. And to prevent the continued overdevelopment, we have to have a little bit of common sense up there. Back to what I hope to accomplish with the infrastructure, our side roads and feeder roads, as we get ready for this 377 expansion, we're going to be down to 1 lane each way in different phases. It's going to be a nightmare. We're going to see triple the traffic on roads like Old Granbury Road, Old Acton Highway, and a lot of these others. We have to get those roads ready. A lot of the solutions to that issue are not really even in the planning phase yet. Public documents have not been made available. And beyond that, there are a lot of sections of county roads, specifically Old Acton Highway, that once you transition from the city portion to the county portion of that road, we don't even have paint on the ground to let people know what lane they're in. You triple the traffic that we already have on that road, and we're going to be in a world of hurt. It doesn't have to be a migraine, it can be a slight headache, but it's going to take a little bit of planning and some proactive solutions.
Now, as we hear Nate Criswell talk about the question, he goes right into, hey, we've overdeveloped for years without infrastructure in place, and boom, boom, boom. He goes down the line on what is needed, what the county should do. So if you look at the two, I would say that, you look at Nate's answers and you look at so far, and you look at Jack's answers, I would think that Nate Criswell is your commissioner already, and he's got the answers, boom, boom, boom. And Jack seems to be lagging on what's going on. And maybe he's not a public speaker, and that's fine, but if you're there 3 years, you should have that knowledge and be able to translate that knowledge to the people that are sitting there onto something that you've done or something that you know about. Let's move along to the next question.
My largest campaign donor, and I've been very blessed in this campaign financially. I've received more in donations than I believe any other candidate, and I've received more, I've had more people donate to the campaign, I think, at this juncture than any other candidate. We'll find out for sure when the next round of financial reports come out. My largest donor is a friend of mine who I've known since I went to his daycare as a child. His name is Stephen Ranke. He owns Creations Daycare. He is my largest donor. He's a close personal friend, and he knows that the two of us, and a lot of them, everyone else that has donated, agree on policy. That's why people donate to my campaign and previous causes. Thank you.
My largest donor to date is Judge Vincent Messina, and a lot of smaller donations from people all over the county, not just Precinct 3. The support that I have received from those individuals has been outstanding.
The next question is pretty straightforward. Who's your largest donor in your campaign at this point in time? Nate Criswell said it's Stephen Ranke, and he's known him for years. It's a personal friend. They agree on policy. A lot of people do that donate to their candidates, specific candidates, and that's why they donate. I'm all about donations and getting donations from people that are like-minded with you, that like the things that you stand for, whether it's, abolish abortion, Second Amendment, whatever the rights may be. Then it moves on to Jack Wilson. Like I said, pretty straightforward. Judge Vincent Messina has been one of his largest donors to date, which is fine. I mean, you can look at the people that donate to different people and see where they stand politically, see where they stand socially, and kind of get an idea of, where those candidates stand as far as what they're going to vote on, how they're going to vote, and things like that.
My experience operating my own personal business from 95 to 2016, prior to that, dealing with federal in the contract world and the special ops world, dark world, puts me in a position to have the experience and the knowledge to continue to work towards the betterment of the citizens of the county. Just today, had a conversation with the engineers at TxDOT regarding the work that's going on, the projects that we're working on, and some of them have partially come to fruition, and the others are on their way. Thank you.
So once again, Jack spoke. He spoke maybe 25, 30 seconds within that time frame of at least a minute that they had, and he brought up his business experience, and yes, he had business experience before. He brought up the contract world the federal contract world that he lived in with special ops and dark world contracts, I guess it was. I don't know how that's going to affect him as, being a commissioner. I would have liked to seen him talk about what he's done as a commissioner, how he's gone through the community, who he's talked to, what he's done for the community to help, get government out of our lives and make it easier for businesses and things like that. Then he went on to, a conversation with TxDOT on what's going on. Well, that's part of the job. They get either biannual or at least quarterly updates from TxDOT representatives that, hey, this is what's going on in your area. This is what we're going to do. Please prepare for this. So it's nothing out of the norm. Certainly didn't take advantage of this closing remarks like he should have, in my opinion. And let's go on to Nate Criswell.
In closing, I would like to say that I am running to be a full-time county commissioner. I will use the Holy Bible, the United States Constitution, the Texas Constitution, and the Republican Party of Texas platform to guide my decision-makings. In addition to that, with the uncertainty that we have in D.C. and in Austin, it's important that we have somebody in office that we can depend on when times get tough. During COVID, and before I say what I'm going to say, these are not personal attacks. These are public policy statements and votes made by my opponent. Number one, during COVID, he was quoted in the newspaper, Hood County News, you can look it up, as saying, we will get our rights back when this is over. Basically when the governor decides it's time to get our rights back. Number two, in the year 2022, about 14 months ago, there was a resolution that was put up in front of the Hood County Commissioners Court to declare an invasion at the southern border. He voted against that. Guys, thank you for your time. My name is Nate Criswell, running for County Commissioner Precinct 3. I'm asking for your prayers, your support, and your vote. Thank you.
So as we watch Nate Criswell and his closing remarks, once again, it looked to me like this was Nate Criswell, Commissioner Nate Criswell. Jax was short, didn't know what he was really talking about, talked about the world and the dark world and things like that. But Nate came out saying, hey, he's going to be a full-time commissioner, which is great. We need full-time commissioner there. He's going to use the Bible, the U.S. Constitution, the Texas Constitution, the party platform to help direct his decisions on what he needs to do for the people of Hood County. And, I was kind of waiting for this to be brought up, and Nate Criswell finally brought it up about COVID back when the COVID decision came out. And a lot of people already know that have watched this program because we've done videos on it. And of course, we know what COVID's been about the whole time. Some of us do. So he brought up the, when Commissioner Wilson, and he wasn't commissioner at the time, but he said that, your rights will be restored. And let me read it to you because it was his quote. He quoted it in the newspaper to Hood County News. He also quoted on his Facebook page. And he go see it for yourself, but, we're talking about COVID. And for these reasons, it is with caution that I support the actions that Governor Abbott has taken, knowing that our constitutional rights will be fully restored as soon as possible. And if for any reason other than this quote right here, Nate Criswell should be the next commissioner. And why people don't listen to this quote and really know and understand what Jack Wilson meant and is saying, you have to be deaf, blind, and I'm sorry, dumb. Because what he's saying is that he knows that your constitutional rights were taken away, but he's one of the people that are okay with either him or somebody else restoring them as soon as possible. That is not okay by me, not at all. And it shouldn't be okay by you. So when somebody says this and quotes it in several places, please pay attention. And then Nate Criswell brought up the resolution in 2022 for calling an invasion on the southern border. And of course, we did a video on that too. And Jack said it was more of a crisis and than an invasion, and they have better things to think about. Well, when it comes down to it, it's an invasion. Most of us know it's an invasion. And if you have better things to think about, you sure didn't put forth in this forum what the better things were. What we have here is a problem because the southern border is going to affect, and even the sheriff talked about illegal aliens in the jail and, schools and everything down the line, hospitals. So we're going to have this on a county level, and we already do. And the taxpayers are going to be paying money for this, and you've got a commissioner that can't call it an invasion. Here we go, folks. This race, out of any race, if you look at the challenger and if you look at the commissioner, the incumbent, there is the widest separation in this race. And it is, if you're a conservative, Christian, value person, and you believe in the Constitution, both U.S., Texas, it's a no-brainer. Nate Criswell, far and beyond, won this debate. Jack, and look for yourself. Watch the whole debate. We have people saying, people didn't follow, Dale Carnegie's, speech writing forms and this and that. Well, Jack didn't even shake hands with Nate at the very end. He just kind of stormed off. So look at these debates. Look at the body language. Look at the, things that go on in between, the facial expressions. Look at that specific forum, and you'll be able to decide for yourself. And if you think that Jack's the better person in this debate for being commissioner in Hood County Precinct 3, then I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to follow the Constitution, the Republican Party platform. You might as well go to a different party. Nate Criswell looks like he's going to follow just about all of that. So when it comes down to the Constitution, you remember one thing in this quote right here. If this is all I knew about the candidates, that one is going to use the Bible, is going to use the U.S., the Texas Constitution, the Republican Party platform to help, form their decision-making process. And then you have one that says, right here, knowing that our constitutional rights will be fully restored as soon as possible. It's a no-brainer, folks. Believe what they say.